Welcome to the Gifted Woman podcast with your host, Jay Menz. This is the place where you can come into full alignment with who you are without a mask. This is the place to discover what your unique gifts are. So let's go. Milli Fox. And you got to know about this gal because she is obsessed with all things self-worth and manifestation. We're thinking Brené Brown meets Gabby Bernstein with a sprinkly of goofy on top. I love it. Milli has created a unique process for manifestation that she's titled Compassion Focused Manifestation that helps women move forward towards their dream lives from a place of wholeness and integrity. Milli has been called to live a boldly authentic life that reclaims the definition of luxury in order to expand what women believe is possible for them. She aims to raise the collective consciousness and heal generational trauma through her coaching programs and workshops. Milli is a two-time published author and a voracious reader who is currently writing the next New York Times bestseller on manifestation. Oh man, do we want to dive into just first of all, I want to hear about this book that you're writing currently called or about manifestation. So actually let's even rewind it further is how did you even get into the world of manifestation?
Well, I was introduced to the concept by my dad, actually.
Love that.
I was pretty young. My dad was into, the power of positive thinking, Neil Donald Walsh, and all those big sort of OG guys. He got me into all sorts of different people, Abraham Hicks, and I could go on. He gave me my first Abraham Hicks CDs that I would listen to in 1996 Jetta, dating myself here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I've been aware of it for some time, but I didn't take it seriously until I was probably in my late 20s, I would say,
Yeah.
where
What
I,
led you into taking it seriously?
well, I think I was always headed here, to be honest, because when I was 7 years old, I wanted to be a psychologist.
Totally.
So yeah, my parents broke up at a really young age when I was 8, and I would sit them down at the table and try to mediate their conversations, and I always just wanted to help
Yeah.
people communicate better and live the lives that they wanted to live, and really ultimately the inspiration came from seeing the suffering that my mom went through and her mother. They were just not happy women at all, depressive and, suicidal and substance abuse and things like that. And I just thought this is the path to make a change. And I had to go through and face a lot of my own demons as well because, cycles repeat themselves very strongly. Even when you are trying to not repeat them, you're wake up one day and you're like, oh, I'm doing it. Oh.
For real. And that,
Yeah.
as you're talking, all these epiphanies are coming up. So late 20s, you start taking it seriously. And then but throughout your life, you're seeing mom and grandma and you're like, I don't want to do that. What
Mhm.
do you do to prevent yourself from having these depressive episodes? Or do you have them and you just have the tools to be able to handle them?
This is why I embrace self-compassion so much because as a child of an adult child of an alcoholic, my mom unfortunately did pass away coming up on 2 years ago. My grandmother also did pass away. But as an adult child of circumstances like this, you have a tendency to either just repeat exactly what it was or go into hyper perfectionism, right? And you can kind of even flip flop between the two with the self destructive behaviors and this and that. So I had to come to a point where it's kind of a come to God moment where I was like, oh damn, I'm really repeating some of this stuff here, even though I'm still reading the Deepak Chopra and I'm doing this. I'm like, oh, I am bypassing. I am really not actually doing the work. And it came to a point where I was like, gonna lose something in my life because of some of the actions that I had taken. And I was like, oh no, we need to wake up. We need to look in the mirror. We need to actually do the work and not just enjoy the idea of the work. And
So many people get trapped in that, like where they're reading all the books, they know what to do, but it's like even if they're doing it, it's not consistent enough to make real lasting change. So how did you go from consuming to actually like integrating?
It was I would have to say slowing down and the honesty. You have to be radically self-honest, right? And take self-responsibility. But what it took for me was like really getting to the root of things instead of an example would be if I'm reading the book and there's always exercises at the end of chapters and things like that. I would kind of just like mentally do the exercise
Mm,
previously when I was younger. It came to like just taking it a level deeper where I'm like, no, I'm actually doing the exercise. I'm actually going to put this into practice. I'm actually going to get my journal out and do it and not just try to finish the book
mm.
just for the sake of finishing the book, but like get something out of each part of it. And then therapy, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
actually committing to therapy ongoing. Not like it's not like I've had therapy every week for the last like, 10 years, but I have consistently dipped into therapy
Yes.
long periods of time when I saw myself needing it, and I see myself needing those things when I go into the patterns of overthinking,
Mhm.
spiraling, having like large emotional responses to things, not being able to self-soothe as much as, I'd like to be able to self-soothe. So those are sort of the moments. And I mean, I've stayed committed to my path. Like I went to school for psychology. I did the thing. I was going to be a psychologist. And I honestly, I resonated more with the coaching world than I did with the traditional like therapy route.
Yeah.
Even with my own experience and like progress, I think therapy has a huge place, but I think coaching is what really moves you forward.
Hmm. I get it. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you're saying kind of like because I know a lot of people in therapy for years, but they have the same problems.
Yeah.
Like they've been going for 10 years, and I'm like, but it's not working. Like it's not working. If there's no changes being made, if the same fears still come up, there has to be something that shifts. And it's like people who do the same thing over and over again and they keep expecting something to change. It's like maybe the process has to change, maybe the integration process has to change. So going through all of that and really like developing emotional intelligence within yourself, how did you, and like you said, you went from psychology background, then you found more resonance with the coaching industry. How did you start creating? Like, did you start with manifestation, or what was your lead in into the coaching space?
Trying to think about what my first ever
Uh-huh.
program was called.
Oh yeah.
I honestly do not remember the name of my very first coaching program, but I remember in and around the beginning of my coaching, I think it was in 2018 when I launched my first group coaching program. It was something about money mindset.
Huh.
And then there was another one that was more like general, like just like how to get out of your own way and
Yeah.
stop self-sabotaging, something like that.
So you were like already leaning into what you wanted to focus on anyway. And I'm flashing back to when you were saying you were sitting there with your parents and trying to mediate the communication and trying to come to some sort of remedy or solution. So is that what you do in your online world, is really take people into a space of finding solutions like through manifestation, or just walk me through what's going on in business now from like the beginning in, you said 2018.
Yeah, about around that time. So
Yeah.
I sat down, I went full time into coaching a couple years after that. I think it was like 2020.
Oh yeah.
I had another business. I sold it. And I was like, I'm all in on this. I created a process. I sat down and I was like, how did I actually bust out of this cycle? I call it the self-help hamster wheel where people are just perpetually stuck on this. And my ex-husband used to say to me, he was like, can you ever just like live your life? Like, do you always have to be like
Mhm.
analyzing yourself and doing this work and whatever? Because that was my identity, right? And it was like an obsession.
Mhm.
And I had to break out of that to actually be able to live a present life and accept myself in the moment and allow myself the humanity. And like we were talking about before we hit record, like eat the bacon and eggs for
Yeah.
breakfast. Like, you know,
Yes.
exactly, right? So I sat down one day and I was like, what did I actually do to get here? What was the process? And I didn't come up with steps, I came up with questions. It's like I had to answer these questions for myself. And it came down to 5 questions, and I've based every single program that I've done off the 5 questions, which are who are you? What do you want? What's getting in the way? What do you need to do? And what to do if you get off track. So that's been like the framework that I've worked off of. That was the first official program that I did a whole proper launch around and launched my full-time coaching career around. And I'm actually just reworking that whole system and program right now. I'm almost finished with the first live round of it. And it's such a great system. And even if you just know the questions and you don't know all of the context behind each of the questions, just to go over that and like journal on those 5 questions, it's if you do it
Like,
consistently.
okay, so you're using those questions to kind of help tailor who your offerings are for?
Yeah, I mean anybody can use them, but absolutely. My main thing is I help women bust out of like the perfectionism that exists
Mm.
in like the spiritual entrepreneurship space, really. Because
Yeah.
it's both sides. I was literally on a call today, and the women that joined my program, they're like, I'm a high achiever. I love to set goals, but like the business world and the whole ignore your feelings and hustle as many hours as you can a day and the bro marketing stuff, like I can't fully get down with that. Like I like it, I like having systems, like doing that. But on the other side, like the spiritual world, the woo woo world, they just tell you, to like have faith and believe and like it's all perfect. And it's like, how do we find the happy medium between those two
Yeah,
things?
it must intersect.
It must. And
Yeah.
how do we do that? How do we make the spiritual tangible, and how do we bring more feeling and authenticity into that business and like A type goal setting side of things? So that's where those questions come in. It's like integrating your highest self and your human self and
Mm.
navigating that.
Yeah, because I started my business in 2012 and was taught all the masculine strategy structure. And it was like pulling whatever that saying is. It's like pulling, or no, it was like scratching nails on a chalkboard or pulling
Mhm.
nails. Can't remember what it is, but it was, well, oh my God, the long, boring webinar launches and setting up 50 emails. And I was like, it took me months to do it because it's so unnatural.
Mhm.
And sure, did it get results? I guess, but I never felt anything for it. And then you go, like you're saying, you go into that spirituality, and there is a component where it's like you have to believe. If you don't believe in your
Oh
program,
yeah,
like
for
there's
sure.
no one else that will. But on the other hand, I've worked with a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, and I'm like, you can't just sit there and pray to the universe. You have to take action. Like there's things that need to be done in
Mhm.
order to create. So I agree with everything you're saying. Like there must be a merge between the two. So how do you ground it? Like you were saying that it feels very grounded. It feels like even when you're talking, like your voice is so grounded in what you do. How did you learn how to bring these two concepts together?
Because I find ways to make it highly tangible and applicable. So, if we're talking about the concepts of like hope and faith, for example, there's a lot of research about hope. There's something called the anatomy of hope. Okay. So, it's not actually just a feeling, it's a psychological construct. So, what it exists of, or what it's comprised of, is um, Goals, pathways, and agency. Okay, so you need to set goals. How do we set goals? What's the proper way? Should we do fantasyland goals that like get me all excited and like, all hyped for a while, but then I can't actually make as much progress as I think I need to meet the goal as quickly as I can, so then I get deflated and then, or do I write the smart goal? Like how do I set the goal? First of all, to stay inspired and expanded and stretched, but also to still feel confident that like I'm hitting milestones. And
Yeah.
then pathways is like, what are the pathways? How do I create a plan that doesn't feel rigid?
Yes.
Like I have an idea of the path I'm on and what direction I'm taking and what strategies I'm using and this and that, but like not obsessively attached to this
Yeah.
plan. I can see it. I can see where I'm headed. And then the agency piece is, how do I know that I can do this? How do I actually build confidence? It seems like all of these topics I take that feel fluffy and hard to grasp, I take them and I make them more tangible. So for agency, what is that comprised of? So agency is trusting yourself, right? Agency and how do we create self-trust? Well, you make promises and you keep them to
Yeah.
yourself. Okay?
Absolutely.
Big and small, but you do it.
Mhm.
Regularly keep promises to yourself. You show up when it's hard, okay? And you also take risks. So there's all these little things. It's like, okay, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Am I doing that? If I'm doing these things consistently, I know I'm building self trust. I know I'm taking the
Yeah.
action. I'm building agency. I have my pathway. I have my goals. All of this together means I am creating hope for myself. And that bolsters you, right? And when you have hope, you also can have easier access to faith, which is belief in the bigger picture, that you're not doing this all alone. And how else do you do that? You have a strong connection with yourself. Who are you? What are your values? Do you have quiet time where you connect to the source self within you?
Mm.
It's just like all of these little
Yeah.
habits put together where if you are living this way, then you're automatically setting yourself up for manifestation.
Yes. Okay. So I'm seeing like all these things visually where it's like you set up a framework and it's like you have certain steps that you go on, you ask your 5 questions, and then you make things so tangible that people aren't lost in the air and they're like, yeah, and they're like wearing the crystals and it's like that's a part of it. And you're saying we ground it. Like we put it on actual earth and we
Mhm.
take very simple steps. So you're like intuitive strategist for manifestation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, like, example for the who are you question, we explore that through a framework that I've created called 3 levels of identity. Okay. So then you have somewhere to start with the question. It's like, who am I? Shit, I don't know. That's a really
You're
big
like,
question, you know? So it's like, all right, well, let me break it down into 3 levels of your identity that are going to exist through your whole lifetime. And let's talk about those. Let's look at them on how do you connect with this level? How do you connect with that level? How do you connect with this level? And doing that over time helps people have this stronger connection to themselves, because obviously identity is not something that's locked, right?
no,
Like,
it changes all the time.
so
Yeah.
it's all these little pieces that come together that really it's like it's blending psychology with strategy with manifestation.
That's badass. Is
I
that what you're
want
writing the book on right now?
Yeah, so that's the way it breaks down. And then, I bring in all sorts of cool stuff into there. Like I bring a lot of Brené Brown's work
Yeah.
into what I do. I also bring a lot pieces of Dr. Kristen Neff, who's the founder of Mindful Self-Compassion. I bring her stuff in. Um, and then, sprinkle in some classic manifestation teachings and
Yes.
the neuroscience and the quantum physics and all of the foundational stuff. So,
It makes so much sense why you're doing what you're doing in the way that you're doing it. Like your purpose is so big and it's not coming from something where you're like, what should I do next year? It's like deep within, I can feel it. It's it's in there, and it's so strong because you, from what I'm getting, it's like you just want people to understand how to break out of genetic patterns. Yeah. And how to manifest in a way that isn't so esoteric where you're relying on the manifestation coach, but you're actually teaching them to have self reliance through identity and trust work and like really easy, actionable steps. So, what do you have for someone who's listening that's just like, I want her in my world? Like, would you suggest reading one of your books, or would you suggest joining a program, or what would you say is like the thing that you have now?
You could start with a book. I'm a co-author in a book called The Manifestation Codes. So it's
Like,
5 authors,
mhm.
and we all share a take on manifestation. So I outline a lot of the stuff there that's going to be going into the bigger book. And you can get it on Amazon. It's called Manifestation Codes, and there's like a picture of like an art. It's like an art picture of like a girl with different colors and stuff like that. It's a great book for sure, and it's an easy short read too. So you can start there. And then from that, I'm actually launching a year-long mastermind right now where I'm bringing all sorts of different manifestation courses. So, Manifest on Autopilot is like the main intro course that I just described with those 5 questions. And then I'm going to be making ones that are more specific to love, money, manifesting hotness, like a glow up, you know?
Zoom.
Yeah, the more time that passes, the more cute and sexy I get, you know? There's that, and I'm going to also be weaving in business because I've also been an entrepreneur for my entire adult life. I've also
Uh-huh.
owned e-commerce businesses. I was a health coach and personal trainer prior to that, and I'm just an entrepreneur from day one through and through.
Yes.
And I'm obsessed with digital strategy and social and all of that stuff. And it was that. It was me like going from taking like the big names in online business courses,
Mhm.
I don't want to name names, and then going over to the feminine side of things and energetics and being a part of like a feminine energy mastermind and like
Yes.
going like how do I take this
Mhm.
and this and put it together in a way that makes sense,
Yeah.
isn't overwhelming,
Yeah.
feels good, right? So my mastermind is called Grown, and it's for the woman who's ready to arrive, and it's going to be starting I
Wait,
believe
say that again. It's called Grown, and it's for the
Grown,
woman who.
ready to arrive.
Mm,
Hmm.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be all of these different aspects for a woman who just wants the full picture life, successful business, fulfilling love life, a great relationship with herself, body, money,
Yes.
and doing it all in a very grounded, integrated way.
And when does that start?
I'm started aiming for start in mid-September at this point, but September can be really hectic, so it might get pushed to the beginning of October. So,
Do you feel like side note, but do you feel like this is what I found with multiple clients and colleagues, that we're in a space of really undoing what we have been taught in the last decade, and we're coming into this like, I feel like everyone's kind of on a roller coaster, and it's people are starting to land in their own avenues, and yeah, and it's like it's been such a year of unraveling and clearing out and landing, and it's like the plane keeps trying to come to the ground, then it dips down and then it dips down, and then like you get a little right. I
I'm
feel
laughing, yes, because it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, like this
yeah,
last year and a half, 2 years for me has been a complete life. Like my life is completely different now. Like
yes.
I ended a 14-year relationship,
Hmm.
um, father of my kids, and I just moved in with my new partner this weekend.
See,
Literally.
it's like you've like landed the plane, and then the plane's like coming for the mastermind. But
Yeah.
it's like an unraveling, like you were saying.
Mhm.
It's a very, and it's like so different than the pandemic. The pandemic was just like so many businesses skyrocketed, and then also so much depression and anxiety, but then
Mhm.
also joy because you had to find it for yourself. And now it's like 4 years later, and it's like I feel like people went through that and now they're a little tired, and they're like, I don't, some people don't want to be on the computer anymore, and a lot more in-person events because people really need to connect again.
Yeah,
I I think,
I
yeah,
started I started an event series last this year too called the IRL
exactly.
Club. And so that's going to be a part of the mastermind too. There will be 2 in-person
Yes.
events because it's so definitely needed. I feel like as you're talking, I have this vision of like a tornado, and
Mm.
that the pandemic was kind of like the tornado that just like tore everything up
Yes.
and
Yes.
spit people back out. Now people are like spit out all over the place, and they're kind of like looking around like, okay, so where's my new home?
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna go over here and build it here.
Yeah, and they're like, and then some people's hair is like still sideways, and they're like, what just happened? And then other people are like, perfectly coiffed hair, and they're just killing it. But I do feel like it has been a very odd year. It's been just odd. Like things are weird, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that because it's not just like a couple people in your circle. You know how that tends to happen where it's like you get themes in your business of clients. It's like,
Oh
no,
yeah.
it's colleagues, it's clients, it's family, it's friends, it's people that have like scaled the corporate ladder, got to the position, and then are like, but I'm still not happy. And
Yeah.
so it's like an awakening, a rebirthing. And I think because also of the age we're in, it's just like we're ready to do things our way, and our voice is getting stronger. And like you said, like you're launching this thing and you're doing in-person events, and I just feel like you're grounded and things are getting smoothed out. So that's so great. And I love that you bring that energy in here. Is
Thank
there Yeah, is there anything that you just want someone to know who has tried the self-help books and has done the manifestation, and they're like they're tired, their soul
Oh
is
yeah.
yeah. What do you want to say? Because I feel like those are the people that might be listening right now.
First of all, focus on your nervous system.
For
Please,
real.
please, please. Like go find out what that means.
Yeah.
Okay. You've
Uh-huh.
heard of it a few times by now, but go figure out what that actually looks like for you in your life, because you will not have the focus, clarity, motivation, or inspiration. You'll have so many false starts if you don't do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'll add on is one of the things that helped me the most was hiring a somatic therapist and doing
Mm,
somatic experiencing. And like I did all this stuff before, but that was the biggest change is like slow. And like you were saying at the beginning, is like you slow down to speed up.
yeah.
And there's so many exercises that a somatic therapist will take you through that like
Mm,
you're scanning the room and then you focus on something, and it's life changing when
yeah.
you slow down.
Get into your body, cultivate safety for yourself, and learn how to self soothe. Like, that has to be the very first step out of anything, because, like, I know how it goes. I was there too, but you're just looking for the answers outside of yourself, and you're trying to like crunch it in your head. And that's not where it's at. It's in your body and it's in peace. Like, it's not going to come from anywhere else. So, please,
Yeah, you're like, I'm begging you.
please. I did it for way too many years.
Yeah, and like even when you said that, I was like, oh yeah. When I started doing yoga in 2008 is when I started feeling like fully connected. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
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 So it's like go back to those moments where you're like something changed, something clicked. Because I think we get into business from the beginning of feeling so good. We want others to feel good. But then along the way, it's like when you do expand to a bigger audience, more money, your system is like it doesn't know how to do that. So
You
then
gotta ground.
you got to ground and you got to go back to some of the elements and foundations of why you started anyway. So, Millie,
Mhm. Yeah.
so awesome. We'll have
Yeah.
all your contact in the show notes. And Yeah, like I can't wait. People check out her manifestation codes book on Amazon with the girl with all the colors. And then
You
it's
can just DM me the word grown if you want information about the mastermind, because I don't have any links up anywhere right now. So that's super simple.
see, and that's the other thing I've noticed is we're doing things our own way.
Yeah, whatever's easy, whatever flows, it has to be. I mean, don't use it as an excuse to not aim for excellence, but uh, we're aiming for excellence, not perfection. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make a note about the yoga thing too, because I actually just finished my yoga teacher training and getting into your body, like I cannot stress it enough, and I also did a nervous system, like a somatic membership for almost a year. And those two things just hands down together. It's the foundation. Like our body, the way that I speak about manifestation is like our body is like our hardware, right? And the wiring and the programming cannot function properly if the hardware is out of whack. So make sure that you are tending to
Yes.
the hardware.
Well, and as you're saying that, I'm like, there's so many complexities. So like when you have chronic autoimmune, it's
Mhm.
like your body and your mind go in separation.
Yep.
And so it's like the merge coming back together. And it's like you don't have to do it on your own. There are so many things. Like, what's the somatic program that you were in that made like the yoga and the somatics like
It
and
didn't come together. It wasn't like I did my yoga teacher training separate, but
yeah.
I was in an online membership. It was called Soma Love,
Hmm.
actually the membership, and it's run by Dana Dawsey. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
We always want to give like credit where credit is due. So that is Soma love. So
mhm.
yeah, that's good because anyone listening is like, ooh, yeah, that's what I want. Yeah. So DM you the word grown. Beautiful.
Mhm.
And then on Insta,
I'm at Millie Fox.
beautiful. Okay, so you'll hear it, see it, and then connect with her there. That was epic, beautiful. Like I can just feel the groundedness in your soul and in your energy. And like that's probably what makes it such a good jumping point for people like that are gonna come into the mastermind, they're gonna read the book. Like it's so needed in this world of angels and guides.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this comes from my 5 Capricorn placements.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. She's got some order. Beep, boop, boop, boop. System strategies that
There we go. Hmm.
yeah, epic. Thank you, Millie.
Thank you
That was
so
awesome.
much for having me. That was awesome.